reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
You're logging into your favorite game, grinding out some gear. A couple of points added to your stats, and you have a virtual beer. Max level is pretty cool, but I'll remind you here, my friend. These games are not about the goal, it's about the journey and not the end.
You're listening to MMO Reporter, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. And by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems.
Don't forget about your ults you need to cherish. Each and every little character you've got, no matter what level they're at. Don't forget about your ults.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of MMO Reporter. This is episode 269. I'm Chris, and I am joined this week by the ever so lonely Mr. at MMO Bill. Hello, Bill. How's it feeling without Harry to support you through the podcast?
Well, I feel, it's a little bit intimidating having to deal with your shit. I mean, hi, Chris. How are you?
It's nice to see you too, jerk.
Yeah, I love you. Platonically, of course.
Hey, it's nice to talk to you again. We are a little bit shorn this week. We are a little bit less hairy. And we do have some MMO news to talk about, though, don't we, Bill? A little bit of, you know what? This is the perfect week to talk about Star Citizen since Harry's not here, so we're going to do that. Because the last thing we want to do is be talking facts about Star Citizen and just have Harry cursing in the background. Mm-hmm. And then we've got a little bit of Guild Wars 2 news, some ESO news, and a little bit of news from around the world of internets. But before we get into that, Bill, what have you been doing in game?
Well, this week was actually a little bit light for gaming. I had a whole bunch of real life stuff eating into my game time, which was not appropriate at all. But I played a little bit of Overwatch still. I'm getting a few matches in here and there, trying to stay a little sharp for Season 2 starting up in a couple weeks. But I think probably the most time I spent playing was actually World of Warcraft. I finally got my rogue up to level 60, at which point I burned my boost and got him to level 100. And now I am just patiently waiting for the Legion to do its thing. I've actually started just kind of poking around. I'm looking to build up my gold supply a bit, so I've been running old raids, and when I say running old raids, I ran Molten Core, and that's about it. But it's fun. I mean, it's neat to be able to go back and do it now. Content that I never would have seen because I was far too chicken to ever raid with anybody back in the day. And so now I've got that. I've got AQ 10 and 25 that I'm probably going to do next. Probably going to run some Cataclysm raids. Probably go through Karazhan again, or as much as I can, because I know there's a couple bosses in Karazhan that require a group or a raid. But I'll do what I can, and it should be fun.
It's you know, you need to be doing. You're holding tight, you say, right, waiting for Legion, but you need to be out there doing invasions and invasions and invasions and invasions and invasions.
Yeah, because that's what I want to do, is just get stuck doing the same thing. Basically, get stuck doing Guild Wars 2 events in World of Warcraft.
You know what? More than Guild Wars 2 events, the invasions in WoW remind me of... they remind me of Rift Zone events. More than anything else, that's what they remind me of.
To a degree, I can see the comparison there. And actually, that was a dirty lie. I actually did log into Rift I wasn't just WoW. I logged into Rift and played for about half an hour. And when I say played, I meant basically just trying to learn what the heck Rift is and does. I unshelved my old rogue character there, and tried to go through the skill library again and spec library and everything like that. I was very amused to find, like we were talking about it previously, Rift has for people that are kind of stepping into old characters that they had before, they actually have skill templates that you can do, like community submitted templates where that allocate all your points in a certain way. The template actually links off to an internet guide that tells you how to play, what your rotation should be, how you should set up your action bar and everything like that. So they really hold your hand quite well, except for the rogue. What do they call it? It's not a rogue. It's what's that soul collection called?
I can't remember now.
The stabby one.
The stabby one. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll call it the stabby.
Isn't it rogue? One. No, because I call it rogue. I think of it as my rogue. Yeah, so I think that's rogue.
Okay, so it is a rogue.
Yeah.
Two of their templates are exactly the same. There's a huntsman and a veteran huntsman, and their talents are exactly the same. Their skills are exactly the same. The guides are exactly the same. So there's only like 6 guides that you can choose from if you haven't loaded up on all the soul expansion packs or anything like that.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are literally identical, and all the rest are stabby ones.
Right.
So it was. I felt a little bit ripped off there. I felt like there should be at least one unique one.
Well, ask for your money back, Bill.
Well, I did plunk down money on Rift, actually. I've plunked down a significant amount of money on Rift, too, because I've got that stupid spider mount.
It's not stupid. It's awesome. Shut up.
Yeah, so anyway, so I did that, and yeah, that was pretty much my week. How about you, Chris? What did you do?
Well, like we talked about, WoW has been taking up a lot of my time. I actually leveled up my mage because it looks like that's what I'm going to use my boost on, and I figured I might as well try to get as close to 60 as I can. I figured I'd go out and do some invasions and use that to level, but the problem is doing invasions without a mount is... useless would be the wrong word because that would be too generous.
Let me give you a hint, because I think you're going to like this, because this is what I did on my rogue when I was, because I leveled up before I had any decent mounts or anything like that. Hang out in the town that it's happening in. Like, obviously, if you're running out and you have to explore zones for the first time and everything like that, that's going to take time, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But if you can get to the town where the invasion is centered, hang out in the town, do the first 2 phases there, and then when it gets into the phase where the entire zone is being invaded, you want to look up to see where the vehicle spawns are, because there's always little tanks or catapults or glaive throwers or something like that. Get into that, and then drive around the zone.
Which one of the spawns is that? Like, how can I tell which one of the things on the map is the vehicle spawns? Will it say it?
I'm not 100% sure, no. Typically, it's the little green emerald ones that are closest to the town.
Okay.
It's hit or miss on that, but typically what'll happen is you'll arrive up, it'll look like an invasion, but the vehicles will they're all in the process of being attacked by the Legion demons.
Okay.
And that. So you don't necessarily have to wait for the fight to be done or anything. You just jump into a vehicle and you can start fighting from there. But that gives you a nice range attack so that you don't get insta-gibbed from bosses just obliterating you. Although as a mage, that should be less of an issue than it would normally be.
My paladin,
but yeah, your paladin would get melted at lower levels. That's what I found, is that even though your damage attacks took out hunks of damage kind of commensurate with what a level 100 version of you would be doing, you don't have the health pool. So any AoE attack is basically just insta-death for you.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to be a ranged rogue in World of Warcraft. That was and believe it or not, that is not a special amount of damage you're doing that way.
Surprisingly enough.
But anyway, look for those vehicles and you'll still be able to do that. And I recommend it because, especially at those lower levels, I bet you could do 5-6 levels in a good invasion. Yeah. If you actually hit everything and you tag a whole bunch of mobs and everything like that.
Well, that's my hope, right? That's what I want to do.
it's incredible experience once you get a good pattern going. It's just a matter of getting that pattern going.
Okay. Well, that's very helpful. That's very, very helpful. So that's been my time in World of Warcraft, at least. And then I did spend some time as well in WildStar. And, you know, I went in because Red Moon Terror is launching. All that stuff is coming up. And I'm hesitating here because I'm not going to be very nice. And I don't want to say something that's not very nice. But I'm going to have to. I jumped into WildStar. And I tried out the new content. And I went in and tried the new zone that they've got going with the pirate stuff. Not the new zone, the new intro quest sort of thing, right? It sends you to one of the starter zones, and you get on a ship and you go off into space, and you get a little bit of a cinematic, and then you kill a couple things, and that's it. And this is supposed to be the introductory quest for this big raid and this new chunk of content. And it made me a little bit sad because I had just gone through the intro quests for Legion on a couple of different characters. I had just done the intro quest for the Demon Hunter, and all this stuff was just so good in WoW. And the gameplay, I've always said, is fantastic in WildStar. It's my favorite game to play. But that quest did not get me excited for it. There wasn't a small little zone that we could do stuff in. There was 2 repeatable boss fights that you could do, and that was it. I don't know if something was broken. I don't know if I missed something. If I did, WildStar players, please let me know. But I was disappointed. I was sad. I was happy to be back in WildStar, and the thing that I really liked is the new way they've got their group finder going. You get in game, you hit N, and you want to do something. And I did like world story stuff, the instanced world story stuff. I jumped in by myself and did some of that and got some of the story that I absolutely love in WildStar, and did that for a while. So that was good. But this new Red Moon Terror stuff, I got the mount out of it. You get a mount if you finish that intro quest. So I got my mount, and that's really all that matters.
There you go.
Although it does look like I'm holding 2 spoons when I ride it. There's no handlebars. Like, you hold the where the handlebars are supposed to be, and there's like 2 spoons that you're holding. And I don't know if it's supposed to be like levitating technology stuff where it's, you don't actually have the metal that goes back to the bike part. But yeah, I'm just gonna try and see, for those of you who are watching live, if I can jump ahead a little bit in the video that I'm showing and show off the bike that I was on, because it'd be cool to be able to show people that. But yeah, it was basically just, there it is. I'm riding it right now. And it's weird. It's really weird. But anyways, good times. Good times had by all. So that was WildStar. Jump back into there. Lotro. Hey, I am, what is it? Like 200,000 XP, which is nothing at level 105. 200,000 XP away from level 105 on my Warden. I'm running around the off-white city, Minas Tirith. And I have to say, this is not my favorite type of quest. I've never been a fan of the Shire is a really cool zone, and everyone who ever plays Lotro should play like a Hobbit something and completely 100% the Shire, because that's the best Middle-earth experience you're ever going to get. That is so perfect as the Shire. But I don't really like that most of the time in my gameplay. It's just boring.
It's in most games, that would be a rude collection of FedEx quests. It's and that's typically not fun. You're right. The Shire is a bit of an exception as long as you're looking for the Lord of the Rings Online experience and kind of getting a taste of Middle Earth and that kind of thing. It's, if like in World of Warcraft, if you had those equivalent quests for the Gnome Zone, you'd be infuriated by the end, mainly because you're playing a gnome, but partially because of the quests, at least. It's not. The games that have done really well are the ones where, I mean, even if you do have to go like kill 10 rats or get 15 cloths or whatever, the ones that give you the ability to complete the quest in the field. I'm doing air quotes here for everyone who can't see me, which is everyone except my wife. That at least gives you a smooth experience. So you're still playing, you're still kind of, there's a pattern to what you're doing, but the back and forth and the rubber banding that you got to do to complete a zone like that, it just yuck.
Yep. So that's my Lotro time running around Minas Tirith pretty much. I've spent, I'd say, probably 2.5, 3 hours just running around Minas Tirith. About half of level 104 and all of level 105 have just been running around Minas Tirith. And these are the highest levels in the game, so you can imagine the amount of XP required for those levels. That's how many quests are FedExing around Minas Tirith. And some of them are a little bit to fight, but they're mostly run here, listen to this, talk to that, find this, do that. Yeah. Many steps. So anyways, the other one I want to talk about, I'm in an alpha playtest this weekend with no NDA, no embargo, for a game called MXM, which I've played before, I've mentioned before, Master versus Master. This is an NCSoft game, which is taking that Heroes of the Storm idea of getting all the Blizzard properties together under one roof in a MOBA and doing that for NCSoft. And it's not quite a MOBA. It's not quite. It's like a MOBA and Diablo had a baby. And it's multiplayer. It's very MMO-ish, but in a sort of, again, very not traditional, theme park MMO type of thing. You launch into maps and do these levels, and you're meant to grind out the levels a whole bunch. So it like Diablo in that way. But what the real big reason I wanted to mention it was that one of the dungeons available for this particular alpha test is Ascalon Catacombs. And you get to fight with Ritlock. And it is the same map, just in this different engine. Like, it's the same layout for the dungeon that you have in Guild Wars 2. Different sizes, because it's, 3/4 overhead perspective. And you're fighting with Ritlock, and you can get Ritlock as one of your masters that you get, your heroes basically, and you can get characters from WildStar as well, and some other NCSoft properties. So it's kind of fun. I'm surprised at how much fun I had. I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy it. I think this is more of a someone who's really into grindy games like Diablo and Path of Exiles and stuff like that. I think people like that are going to really enjoy this game. I'm not sure about the depth of it. Maybe more gameplay will get me some more idea about it.
Curious too, because you think about some of these MMO, like this seems to be a little bit of a pattern I'm noticing now. You've got MXM coming from essentially the NCSoft universe. Clearly you got Heroes of the Storm coming from the Blizzard universe. You've got Dota coming from the Valve type universe, although that's probably not a good example. League of Legends is clearly its own animal. It's not really borrowing from anywhere. But there's a lot of these games that are basically using a MOBA as almost another way to kind of pimp their IP or get their IP in front of somebody's face and that kind of thing. And that's the draw. And I don't know what I think of that. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of nice to get a little bit of variety, like getting the characters you're familiar with into a variety of scenarios, and kind of that kind of familiarity is probably good. But it almost feels like it's part of the formula. Like when we think about a movie, it's like, we've got a kids movie, so that means we got to make a video game for it, and that means we've got to make a lunchbox for it, we got to make an action figure for it. That it's kind of a formulaic thing that once you land on an IP that's good in the gaming space, we've got to throw a MOBA at it, we got to throw a trading card game at it, we got to throw a Pokemon pet collection mechanic into it. I don't know. Am I crazy? Do you think? Are you seeing this pattern too?
A little bit, but not as much, I think, maybe as you are. And I don't necessarily mind it as much because I tend to like all those things.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I just think it's anytime I see the pattern kind of pop up like that across different companies. Yeah, so clearly somebody's ripping off somebody else or borrowing from somebody else. But.
Yeah, I think. This is not Heroes of the Storm. This is not a MOBA clone. This is not your typical MOBA. It takes from a whole bunch of different things and puts it into its own thing. And so far, and I have to admit, I'm maybe 2.5, 3 hours in, so my gameplay experience is very limited. And again, to be blunt, I'm preparing for Legion right now, so I'm not going to get a ton of time into this gameplay weekend. I'm going to try to get as much as I can, though, and try and play a little bit. Sammy, who's helped me out with a lot of stories before, and who did our video for, I forget what the other game was, but did a video for us, is also in this game, so I'm going to try to play with him for a little bit and get some content done.
Okay, cool.
But I have to be honest, I'm probably going to spend most of my time this weekend getting ready for Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to get my invasions done. Got to get up to item level 700. Come on. Got to get it done. Got to get it done. Okay. And so from there, I spent a lot more time in No Man's Sky as well. And I recreated that bug that I talked about last week. And I actually got it to come all the way up to the surface of the world using my grenades, which can deform the terrain because it's voxels. And I actually got that hole through the earth to come up to the ground. And so I was able to jump down, not from this deep, dark pit into the core of the earth, but actually just from the regular level of the ground. But I do have, I think, overall, I'm holding off. I know we said we were going to do our review of it this week, but I want to talk about it with Harry Hall. And I think the biggest thing that I want to say right now about the game is fuck that game and the horse it rode in on. Because I'll just say that I got to the galactic core, and that's all I'm going to leave it at. I'll talk about it more next week if you want to hear why I am so incensed with my experiences with the game after having reached the galactic core. You'll have to wait till next week. But I'm
tune in next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Ask Bill, because I was quite adamant in my dislike of the game in general while not disliking the mechanics.
I was really surprised. Like, we had this chat, so sorry not to tease that I know something that everybody else doesn't, but it's I was surprised at how vitriolic you were. So that'll be a good discussion when Harry's back. So
yes, it will. So he's not allowed to be sick again. Don't be sick. Right. Get better, Harry. Everybody send threatening messages to @Harry Hall that he must be better for next week. Okay, friendly threatening. Friendly threatening. Okay, I don't know what I've just unleashed, but I'm sorry, Harry. Okay, let's go check out some news. But before we get to that, thank you to all our patrons over at patreon.com/MMO Reporter. You are wonderful people, and I love each and every single one of you. If you want to help keep the lights on here at MMO Reporter, help us do what we do best, then go check out patreon.com and /MMO Reporter. Check out what our goals are, check out what our patron rewards are, and we would love to have you join the ranks of our patrons. And hey, we're thinking about opening up our Discord server to our patrons, so if you think that's something that you'd be interested in, let us know. We'll have all the contact info at the end of the show. For now, let's get into the news. All right. While the cat's away, the mice will play. Harry Hall is gone for this week, so we're going to talk about Star Citizen.
In a sensible, calm way, right?
Totally. Yeah. No, I'm okay. Here's the thing. I still haven't had a great experience jumping into the game, and I think at this point that could be equal parts me and equal parts the game. I don't necessarily have the same amount of displeasure in the mere mention of the game as Harry Hall does. But we're going to talk about some stuff that came out of Gamescom, where Chris Roberts put on a presentation. Nice long video we'll have a link to in the show notes. You're watching it now if you're watching the video or watching it live. And there was some stuff that they talked about. First of all, the demo itself showed a really good looking game. Looks clean, ran well, cool UI. I liked the way that the ship UI was going. I liked the way that the world worked around the ship. I liked getting into the ship. I liked walking around the station. All that stuff was cool. So the game itself is looking pretty good. There was a little bit of mention of the Space Marine part of it, the first-person shooter bits, but no new information was put out about that, nor did they have any information specifically about Squadron 31, is it? Did I get it right?
I think so.
The single-player game, basically. They didn't have any new information about that, but they did talk about the Alpha 2.5, which is coming out very, very soon. There's going to be a new space station for those of you who are a little bit more morally ambiguous than other players, allowing you to get some missions and stuff like that might not necessarily be on the up and up. They looked at planetary landings as well, and there's a demonstration in this demo about that. Looks fantastic. Really, really, really nice. There's some audio improvements, new graphic effects, some new ships, and some new weapons and stuff like that. So that stuff is coming out. I think a really cool quote from this, though, was from Chris Roberts saying, "We're more focused on building a universe and world. We have lore and history, so it's a different approach to Elite and No Man's Sky. We won't have billions of planets or systems." So this is not a procedurally generated universe. This is we're going to plop this here, this there, that there. So they have to create everything, which means they require a bigger team. They have to put in more work, and the development is a lot slower. I thought it was a little bit of a dig to Elite and No Man's Sky, because I think Elite is starting to get some pretty great lore. I think that their faction system was a great start for sort of this universe that's this malleable, that's actually, the politics of it are changing and stuff like that. So bit of a dig,
and I don't know if it's maybe a little bit disingenuous too, because if they're creating entire worlds, planets, and moons, that kind of thing, I would be stunned if there's a level of procedural generation to that, and then there are just points of interest added to each area, because you can't make, ask the guys over at Blizzard how hard it is to make a world.
Right.
And then do it 100 more times, because that's how big
mind
Star
you,
Citizen's going to be. And
that was me adding that there's no procedural generation. That was just from his quote. He didn't specifically say that, so don't take that out of context. Sorry. That was me not being as clear as I could. But the entire universe is not procedurally generated, I think, is more what I was going for.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So
but still, interesting quote.
It's it's interesting that they are deliberately putting themselves right into that that discussion of Elite and No Man's Sky and Star Citizen are all in the same conversation. I think that probably speaks a lot to their confidence that they're
and No Man's Sky should not be in that it's not anywhere near the same type of game.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more next week, clearly, but that's I wonder what else is going to try to step into that space, pun little bit intended, because I feel like it's something that's catching a lot of attention and getting a lot of ears right now. And if No Man's Sky is not and this is not to put words in your mouth, Chris, or your review, but that's kind of the scuttlebutt, is there's a lot of people disappointed with what No Man's Sky ultimately turned into, or what it wound up being, especially as a full price game and everything like that. It feels like there's a little bit of a vacuum, again, pun sort of intended.
So a couple things that I wanted to mention as well. Star Citizen does have a lot of the parts of gameplay that Elite Dangerous already has. It has you getting on planetary landings, they're just talking about that, getting on and off the ship, launching from ships, from your ships. All that sort of stuff is already in the game, and it's interesting to see the difference choice in development that Star Citizen is choosing to take compared to Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous was like, okay, here is this part of the game. This is all working. Everything's here. Everything's good, but we'll add more to this, because you couldn't group, you couldn't do this, couldn't do that. Whereas Elite Dangerous seems to be very open with their alpha, right? It's not very hard to get into the alpha, but they're not going to release the game until everything is done. And I think their continual push for ships, their continual, different reasons to buy the game now means they've basically made money as if they had launched the game. They've made enough money for that, so they can develop it as if this was a live game right now, while still having that caveat of it's alpha, so they don't have to have a working game, quote unquote, right? There's all this other, so they can say, oh, there's all this other stuff coming down the line, and it's no longer, oh, well, that'll be content patch down the road. It's, no, we're just making the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're in a good spot for that. That said, I mean, again, if we're going to have this discussion in the context of No Man's Sky and everything like that, it's the game is still being made and it's still being built. So it's really still, it's a bit of a gray area when you're calling it a pre-order, but it still is essentially a pre-order. That there's still lots of features they've promised that are not there yet. And to be fair, Star Citizen is probably one of the most ambitious in terms of promises, and if they even delivered on 10% of their promises, it's going to be a more full-featured game than many games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, that said, the hype train for Star Citizen is completely left the station for me. I've obviously been hard on it in the past, but I'm really in the mode where I think I'm judging it only on its merit at this point. And I watched that video or the Gamescom presentation and everything, and I was so sleepy by the end of it. Pardon me, I shouldn't even imply that I got to the end of it. I made it, I did about almost 20 minutes of it. And that's 20 minutes long video. It's a short attention span generation we're dealing with here. And I thought about it afterwards, and it reminded me a lot of Elite Dangerous. Watching someone else play Elite Dangerous is one of the most boring things you can possibly imagine. Looking at screenshots of Elite Dangerous, fantastic. Listening to stories from Elite Dangerous, I love it. But actual gameplay is sleepy. And really, if Star Citizen is the same in that regard, I can't hold it against that. That seems to be part of this genre of game. I don't even know what you call this genre of game. Is it space exploration MMO?
Yeah, I think what needs to happen for me to be absolutely madly in love with Star Citizen is they need to put in the ability for those of us who need a little bit more hand-holding to have some more stuff to do. Elite Dangerous has that a little bit with the political system, with the power play stuff, and some of the different ways in which you can help your faction, but there's no. It's very slow burn, and if it can do something a little bit closer to traditional MMOs like the WoW, the EQ2, the Rift, the WildStar, to get me through the game, then I will be much more interested in playing that game much more regularly. Whereas Elite Dangerous, I find it really hard to get into it because really power play, I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of jumps to transfer stuff, or I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of jumps to fight to do this mission, or I'm going to have to start here to do this, to do that. And everything takes a lot of time. And I'd like to be able to, in Star Citizen, for example, get a few things to do, a few missions, work on them for a little bit, dock, and then come back to it. I can't really do that. If I do an Elite Dangerous, it's boring. In No Man's Sky, the sort of direction that you're sent on is much more clear. That's a little bit better. Whatever path that you choose in No Man's Sky, you've always got something that you're going towards, and it's easy to make progress on that path. I just get bored in Elite Dangerous, and I hope that there's enough in Star Citizen to keep me not bored. Yeah. Either that, or we will have to completely quit our lives, quit every single other game, and just have an MMO Reporter group or, armada where, we have different people on different spots of the ship. And if we're all together, that would be fun. And if we do that 3 nights a week, we do that, I'm in. Like, I'm in.
We'll discuss it.
Okay, so there's some alpha stuff, Alpha 3.0 coming, about 30 or 40 stations, and some professions, trading, cargo transport, mercenary, and bounty hunting, that are going to be added to the game. So if you're interested in Star Citizen, we'll have a link to that presentation. I would definitely recommend that you participate in that video with some coffee.
There you go. So another reason to get some coffee is that if you were trying to sit down and play some Guild Wars 2 the other day, you were going to need it to stay awake, because Guild Wars 2 went down hard.
Say it ain't so, Bill. Say it ain't so.
It was an event. So the patch that was introduced on August 23rd to Guild Wars 2, which was by all measures that I could tell a relatively minor patch. There was a few event things being added, obviously some Black Lion store stuff and everything like that. Also introduced a bug where soulbound equipment started getting, as it changed hands. So if you were picking it up off of mobs, or you were pulling out of your bank or something like that, when it changed hands into your inventory, it would actually become soulbound to another character, not necessarily not a character on your account, another human somewhere else. So, which you can imagine is a pretty serious issue in any MMO, where you're measuring yourself based on the loot you pick up, and you're picking it up on someone else's behalf, and they're not even there for you to give it to them. So, what the heck? Anyway, so this was a big deal. So apparently the game was up for about 2.5 hours in this state before they started figuring out, oh geez, everybody who's playing is experiencing this bug. So they shut it down at let's see here, I'm gonna check Mike O'Brien's post, and he made that post at 11:33 in the morning. So, and eventually he said later in the day that we'd had to roll back 2.5 hours of gameplay. So when you talk about impact, the rollback was 2.5 hours so it was basically from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time in Guild Wars 2. And then the game was down for another, I think it was probably 6 hours on top of that. Mm-hmm. So basically there was a 8.5, 9 hour blackout for Guild Wars 2 there in the middle of the day, which and lots of people were taken aback. I was actually a little surprised at how significant the voice of the community was that said, wow, Guild Wars 2 is never down. This must be a serious issue. Like there was a decent amount of understanding, I thought, even in Reddit. So think about that for a while. Clearly other people were mad. Clearly this could have been a disastrous thing for anybody who picked up like a legendary precursor, which for those of you not in Guild Wars 2 is an extremely rare item and what many consider to be basically the end game in Guild Wars 2. So in theory there are people that could have lost those, although Mike O'Brien did say that if that did happen to you, contact customer support and they'll do their best to kind of recreate what happened in those 2.5 hours, and assuming someone's not trying to scam support, they'll try to restore that item to them. So and they also had some caveats around things like gem store purchases and that kind of thing. So but yeah, kind of a big deal. And what do you think, Chris? Like I doubt you clearly weren't playing at that time.
No.
Of day, but
no.
I know this is new for Guild Wars 2. I'm trying to think of the last time any MMO I played had a serious rollback. I think WildStar might have had it in its early days, in early patches, not necessarily on release, but I'm pretty sure I remember a rollback happening in there in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't remember anything specific, but I mean, it very well could have happened. That's the thing about Guild Wars 2 is the way that they have their server technology built up. When you have a new build, you just have to log out and log back in, and you're on the new build, and you update. You play on the old one until you log out.
Many MMOs actually have downtime for maintenance. I know
every week. WoW still has
the Old
weekly
Republic,
maintenance.
Yeah, WoW has weekly maintenance. The Old Republic shuts down when they're doing patches. ESO has huge maintenance windows where they shut down for patching. So Guild Wars 2, I mean, all things considered, their uptime is still amazing for 4 years into the game.
It's huge.
But this is that is an egregious bug to get into the game too. Like, I'm amazed that made it there.
Yeah, and that it made it through QA, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, a bit of an adventure there, but hopefully lessons will be learned and things will keep running smoothly with Guild Wars 2.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy they did it this way. Oh, something's really, really wrong. Pull the plug until we figure it out. Not let's let it keep going and then maybe we'll figure out how to fix it. No, they pulled the plug right away. So.
And between Mike O'Brien's posts and Gail Gray's posts and the other people that were kind of cruising around Reddit and that kind of thing, there was actually some pretty good communication around this too. Like, this wasn't a mystery. People weren't running around and assuming the worst and saying, "Oh God, Guild Wars 2 is going to die. It's been hacked. It's being run by aliens now." I don't know. They had a really good handle on the message. They didn't really try to spin it and say, this was a complete accident, would blame it on a third-party vendor. It was raining in Seattle, so it ruined the patch or whatever. They owned it pretty well and said, yep, this is a bug. This is who was affected. This was the scale of the bug. It was really bad. We're going to roll back. Sorry.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it was good. I kind of liked having them kind of speak to us like they basically treating us like adults, like this is what happened, and sorry, not perfect, we'll try to get better next time.
This is one of the few times where there's been a huge issue like this where you haven't seen the company offer some sort of recompense or some sort of here's a couple hundred gems to make up for your lost time. I think the reason the community hasn't flipped out about that is because they were so upfront. There is so little downtime, and they communicated throughout this entire experience. So the community had never felt like, okay, what's going on? What the crap? They never had a chance to get riled up. And I think that's a great lesson for any company.
To be fair, if Guild Wars 2 was a subscription game or something like that, there would have to be some kind of recompense or something like that. Like World of Warcraft couldn't get away without doing a little bit of a time credit or something like that if an issue like this popped up in it. But because Guild Wars 2 it's a free-to-play game, it's a buy-to-play game, whatever you want to call it, depending on if you purchase the expansion or not, I guess. You can kind of get away with saying that ArenaNet really doesn't owe you time because you didn't really pay for that time to begin with anyway.
Right.
But
clearly
I've seen
they
owe
games.
The people that were playing solidly in those 2.5 hours and may have lost really significant loot or something like that. Because I mean, when you look at the scale of the game, somebody must have got something excellent in that 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
But it's so they did own it, but I feel like there's a little bit of an opportunity that maybe there's like a little petling or something like that they could hand out that's carrying like a sorry sign or something like that.
I don't think they need to at all. I don't think there's not and this is one of the few times
they clearly don't need to, but it would not be a bad gesture if they did.
No, but then the community's not screaming for something either, which is cool.
No, yeah.
All right, let's move things along here. To thank our sponsors, Audible and Doghouse. Go to audiblepodcast.com/MMO Reporter if you want to help support the show and get some amazing audiobooks. And check out doghousesystems.com and use the coupon code MMO Reporter to add 120 gig SSD to whatever you purchase. So go and check them out.
For a wagon in skirmish runs. Pull that boss when your healer yells out of mana.
Bill, You remember that? I remember that. Way back before voice chat.
Before mana essentially became unlimited.
True. Out of mana. All right. If you play ESO, you will have seen a recent update coming out with the one Tamriel stuff that they're coming out with, that they're going to add crown crates to ESO. These are loot boxes, folks. Just to put it very simply, you're going to be able to spend 400 crowns in the ESO store. You will get you're guaranteed. The way they've worded it is very clever. They said you are buying for 400 crowns a randomized selection of consumables. That's what you're buying. Oh, and by the way, there's also a chance that you'll get rare or unique cosmetic items, including mounts and some previously retired mounts, costumes, pets, and limited time offers that are no longer available in the Crown Store. But that's secondary. Really, you're spending the 400 crowns for this randomized selection of consumables. That other stuff is whatever. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I just... Yeah. Okay, we talked about this, and to be fair, my attitude is soured because we talked about this pre-show a little bit, but the whole loot box, crown crates, Black Lion chest thing that's happening, again, this is another one of those patterns that's coming up, just sucks. Like, what a garbage way to... Like, to me, this is just trash in a game. Like, it's almost more hassle. I mean, for one thing, it's a very clear cash grab, and it's a disgusting cash grab because in any game that's got a cash shop built into it or anything like that, because you're not necessarily selling anything. It's gambling. It's like you actually said it in pre-show, Chris. Mm-hmm. It's a form of gambling, and it's really easy to come out at the end. I mean, I won't say you lose your shirt or become impoverished or anything like that, although maybe it's technically possible. You can come out at the end, though, where if you decide, yeah, I'm going to burn $20 and just buy as many of these loot boxes as I can, you come out at the end. I would be stunned if 3/4 of the people who went out at the end of those loot boxes after they bought them actually felt good about what they purchased. I bet you most people look at that, it's like, oh, what a waste. Why did I even do that? And not even just a waste of money, but a waste of time. Click, 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 click. Organize your inventory, organize your inventory, organize your inventory. Blech, gross. Just sell loot. Just sell things that people can work for. Okay, I'm done. How about you, Chris? What do you think?
So shortly after the free-to-play transition in Rift, I had accrued a ton of currency. I had subbed all the way through to the transition, and I had a collector's edition of the game and all sorts of stuff. So I had a ton of currency, and we were saving it, Selene and I, fairly regularly and using it on little things. I had bought one mount specifically, but you know me and mounts. I mean, it's my thing. I love mounts, and I spent pretty much every single one of the thousands and thousands of currency that I had on these stupid loot boxes because they had a chance for an ultra rare mount that was only available in these boxes. You couldn't get it I couldn't grind enough to get this mount. And so I spent all that currency, and I felt so stupid. I felt like I'd gone to the casino and bet my rent money. And it's funny how I got that same reaction from that. And I know I've told the story on the podcast before, but it bears repeating because that's really what these boxes are. They're like lottery tickets.
Yeah. And I'm counting on the fact, or the notion anyway, that this is a fad. Like, this is a thing that, oh, look, some game X did loot boxes and seemed to do pretty well. I'm going to try it, and I'm going to try it, and I'm going to try it, and I'm going to try it. And it's that copycat thing. And eventually the general gaming populace is going to eventually look at that and say, oh, that's gross. I'm so tired of that. And it'll fade away. And that'll be good, because it's just patterns like this. I mean, obviously, online gaming and free-to-play gaming and the whole monetization of gaming, it's a very fluid thing, and it's changing over time, and it's going to continue to change over time. And it's ever so slowly becoming, I think, a more consumer-friendly beast. Everybody seems to be everybody wants to try the thing that just squeezes the most amount of money, or identifies the most number of whales, or something like that, to really get that fat game development dollar in their pocket. But the overall trend, I think, is still towards the consumer and towards gamers. So yeah, this is I hope this is a pattern that goes away. Sorry, I derailed there a little bit.
That's okay.
Loot box bad. Hopefully go away. Do another thing that I like.
Yeah, and I understand the need for monetization and all that sort of stuff, and I understand that people will say, you know, this is people spending their money. If people want to spend their money in this way, that's fine. I understand all that. I respect those opinions. I just I just do disagree with them.
You know, and I feel like I'm just an old fuddy-duddy saying this, but you know what I like? I like to spend my money, and I like to buy a game. If the game is expensive, that's fine. Yeah. Once it's mine, I want it. And just give me that game.
Every time something like this happens, I feel like an old man who just wants his subs back.
Like, you remember when you used to go down to the store and you'd buy a CD and then that game was yours?
Now you just you lease it from the
dinosaurs
company.
Roamed the earth.
Yeah. Okay, all right, move along, Bill, because there's grass slowly growing over our aged bodies.
Yeah, and back in the day when forums were never hacked and user data was never leaked out on the internet. And,
this just hurts. This hurts.
Funcom. It's no fun.
No.
Funcom had a data breach with their forums and lost a whole bunch of account information and that kind of thing. They haven't identified the exact time frame, but they've identified it as being prior to August 19th. And they only discovered on the 24th. So today is the 25th when we're recording here. So anyway, if you have a Funcom forum account or ever had or anything like that, and you made the horrible decision to use the same password there that you use on most of your other sites, now might be a good time to go through your password wallet and start changing passwords on things that you care about, because it's out there.
And one of the community managers for Secret World mentioned on Reddit that the passwords were encrypted, but you know what? They could be cracked.
It's out there. So better safe than sorry. If your bank password is the same as your Funcom forums password, which just makes my skin crawl, but it's technically possible, go change your bank password, please.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that we've gotten to the point now where some hackers, I mean, hacking is so sophisticated now. I truly don't believe that Funcom, quote unquote, did anything wrong. They found out about a vulnerability, they patched the vulnerability when they had it, and then found out after the fact that someone had exploited that vulnerability before it had been patched. And
it's not like vBulletin is some weird proprietary thing that Funcom runs. vBulletin is a super popular forum technology, so this is not new to or unique to Funcom. Certainly other forums probably did get abused by that vulnerability, but hey, this is a MMO podcast and Funcom makes MMOs, so that's why we're talking about it.
And they did all the right things. Things were encrypted. It wasn't just text files for all that information. So they crossed their T's and dotted their I's as far as we can tell at this point.
Yeah. So anyway,
too bad. Couple quick mentions for us before we get to the contact info. First of all, you might remember hearing us talk about a game called Worlds Adrift a while back. They're having a big alpha play test. They're not releasing the date yet, but they do have the applications for the alpha play test open. And if you're interested, we'll have a link in the show notes, but you have to register by August 29th. So go and check that out if you are interested. And I do have, if you don't remember what the game is, the biggest part about it is that it's kind of like floating islands of world. And you're going to have a lot of physics where you're going to be able to float between them. It's semi-sandboxy, semi-theme parky, physics-based, interesting stuff. So if that looks interesting to you, which it does look interesting to me, I want to know, okay, this is a great world that they've built. This is a great movement system and all that. Now what about the game? So I'm interested for this alpha to see what the game itself is like, but it is alpha. So alpha means feature incomplete. So they might not even have the game yet.
It's early. Don't pre-order, please. Or, you know what, if you have to pre-order, do it, but know that MMO Reporter disapproves.
That's right. There's 45 minutes of gameplay that you can check out there if you want to try and become a fantastic, amazing Worlds Adrift player.
And, hey, look at this, Chris. They wrote a story about you over on Kotaku.
Shut up, Bill. You suck.
No, apparently you do, actually.
So we've got a story over on Kotaku about the world's worst Overwatch player. Thanks, Bill, by the way, feeling the love.
Yeah.
I think that based on our discussion in the pre-show, I think I want you to tell this story. I can if you want, but you were getting a good laugh out of this when you were reading it, weren't you?
I enjoyed this, and I shouldn't, because if I ever played with this dude, I would be unhappy. But anyway, Kotaku had basically a big interview article. Nathan Grayson interviewed a fella by the name of Dale Bacon Totem Brown, and Dale has the infamous quality to himself of being one of very few people who is literally the worst Overwatch player in the world. They have the lowest competitive rank. They are rank 1, and actually for moments in time he was actually below rank 1 in Overwatch. So basically imagine the bottom of the barrel, and then imagine the scum that's collecting underneath that bottom of the barrel, and that's essentially where Bacon Totem found himself. Now, to be fair, he tells the story of how he basically did this deliberately. He mained Hanzo all the way through so that other people couldn't take Hanzo, because of course Overwatch has a one hero limit, and all the competitive games you can only have one of any given hero, and just deliberately played awful and kind of a jerk move, that kind of thing. I wouldn't want to deal with a person like this, but it's an interesting story of what it was like playing, because he started off in, I think, the rank 50 something range, and then went down through there and told stories about what it was like to play in the 40s, and then what was different in the 30s, and what was different in the 20s, and then the challenge of getting down to like 2 and having to work really, really, really hard to get to lose badly enough to get down to 1. Because I mean, at that point you're really playing with a bunch of either other players who are deliberately trying to get to the bottom of the rank system, or players that are just they're playing on potato powered machines with old Xbox controllers, and
he talked about how the lower he got, the more seriously people would take it. Like the rank 5 to 10 players were way more serious than the rank 20 and would get way more mad.
Well, can you imagine though, like to get down to that low a rank, you'd have to lose a lot. And in order to be at that lower rank, it's not like you could even just throw your hands up and say, screw this game, I'm out, because in order to get to rank 5, you have to lose so much. So those are people who are dedicated, that wanted to get out of rank 5, and for the life of them couldn't, for whatever reason. So I can totally see why they'd be more frustrated down at that end of the spectrum. But it's an interesting Hanjo.
Did you not read that part of it? That's all he would say in chat while he was playing. Hanjo, because somebody misspelled Hanzo as Hanjo. Yeah. And so that's all his reply would be. Let me find it here. He would just, anybody, they would like yell at him where it is. Effing Hanzo, Hanjo. And then it just people quitting. Yeah.
So it's quite a bit trolling, and typically I don't really like this kind of thing or approve of it, but it was a bit of a funny read. So,
but he wasn't trolling anyone else. He was just playing that for his own.
Trolls, and he certainly compared himself to other people who were doing the race to the bottom that were actual trolls. Yeah. But anyway, it's a funny read, and I hope nobody ever has the misfortune of playing with Bacon Totem.
Yeah, it was a really, really great read. So well done to Nathan Grayson for a really entertaining story. All right, Bill, if people want to get a hold of us, tell us about their stories of playing maybe some PvP and MMOs with horrible, horrible players or trolls. Maybe they played with you, Bill. How would they get a hold of us?
I don't know. My feelings are a little bit hurt. I don't know if I could do this now. Well, if you want to check out the website and check out Chris's hurt feeling emporium over at MMOReporter.com, you can do that. If you want to send an email about how mean Chris is and how he should really try to treat his co-host with a little bit of decency and respect, you can email mmo.reporter@gmail.com. If you want to dislike Chris or put the little angry face on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/MMO Reporter. On Twitter, of course, there's lots of different ways to tell Chris how disappointed you are in his attitude. At MMO_Reporter for Chris. At Harry Hall if you want to tell him about all the horrible things he said to me on this show. Or at MMO Bill if you want to send me your condolences. You can give us a call at 616-666-6778 and give Chris a piece of his mind, a piece of your mind, and maybe he'll find his heart with a good voicemail. That could happen. You can go to youtube.com/MMO Reporter Network, which is usually a hive of sensitivity in the comments. So that's a great place to let people know how you feel. If you would like to encourage Chris with gifts to become a better person, go over to patreon.com/MMO Reporter or head over to MMOReporter.com/support. Now
Wow,
I'm going
Bill.
to try to gather up my hurt feeling here and see if I can carry on.
That was amazing. That was amazing. Thanks for recording, Bill. I actually had a lot of fun when I was hurting your feelings.
Yeah, well, you're very good at it.
Thank you. Thank you. I try really, really hard. And thanks to all of our listeners for coming out. Thanks to those of you in the chat room. Thanks for you who watch over on YouTube, watch on Twitch, however you may consume the podcast. We appreciate it. We hope that you come back for the next one. But most importantly, we hope to see you in game.
Don't forget about your ults you need to cherish. Each and every little character you've got, no matter what level they're at. Don't forget about your ults you need to cherish. Each and every little character you've got, no matter.
Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOReporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOReporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.